Welcome to another Quantum Conversation, brought to you by AcousticHealth.com. I'm Loren Gailey, and I invite you to sit back as we enter the quantum realm, that space of the greater part of you. It is your connection to infinite possibilities, infinite potential, and infinite mastery. So welcome to the quantum realm as we meet my next guest. And we are here to receive a transmission of divine love this evening in this call with spiritual luminary Matt Kahn, who is here to talk about our ascension process, the current energies, and how now, as we are anchoring in the fifth dimension, how we can truly embrace that in this coming year. Let's welcome Matt Kahn. Hello, Matt. Welcome back.
Well, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
It is always a pleasure to even be in your energy field, listening to the Angel Academy teachings that you offer and your videos that you offer on YouTube. We are going to take questions from our audience and a few callers this evening. But first, I'd like you to bring us up to date on here we are ahead of this coming year, fully embracing the threshold of the fifth dimension. Can you share more on even the energies of the month of December 12/12 and 12/21 and the coming year?
Well, I think what's interesting is that with every year before this current year, there was a tracking of energies as if we as a planet were all heading in the same direction, and what we can do as a whole to grow and align so that the planet itself can continuously raise its vibration as it ascends into fifth dimensional consciousness. And then what's interesting is then when Earth reaches a fifth dimensional alignment, now that doesn't necessarily mean that every single human being on this planet is aligned in the fifth dimension, but once the planet reaches that alignment, which occurred a few months ago in the energies that I tune into, what's interesting is that we shift our perception from, instead of what are the general themes, that is as if the planet is going through a process, but now the planet has reached alignment with the fifth dimension. Now every individual within this planet has to begin to turn inward and say, instead of looking for, let's say, some sort of general theme that applies to all of us, we all have to see our own physical forms as its own parallel, unique dimension. And so we turn inward and we say, what does it feel like to be me right now? Some people may look outward and look at some of the things that are happening in the world and looking at a lot of violence. And yet, no matter what we see, what we're noticing is the expression and the healing of repressed passion. Anytime we see violence in the world, it is repressed passion being healed because, of course, anger is repressed passion, and anger is how people use to lash out on others. So when we see a lot of this movement, we're seeing the healing and release of repressed passion, which means as we go through this healing, we're going to find ourselves being a lot more creative, a lot more inspired, and we're going to find a lot of inner direction starting to guide us individually into the direction of our highest destiny. So I think right now is a perfect time on the planet for all of us individually to say, what is true for me? How am I being guided? What is my own inner divine guidance asking me to do? What are the changes that I'm being invited to make into my life, as if my body is its own parallel dimension, as if I am becoming my own beacon of fifth dimensional heart-centered consciousness? What are the things that I individually am being asked within the uniqueness of my journey, which of course is always my contribution to the world as a whole, but what are the messages I'm receiving that are just specific for me? That's a very interesting question that at this time is very pivotal to ask, because when the Earth reached a fifth dimensional alignment, that kind of changed the spiritual and energetic platform, where now more than ever before, our contribution to the whole is determined by the path we carve as individuals.
Okay, wonderful words. And this time to go in, it's a beautiful time in the winter months here in the Northern Hemisphere to go
Yes.
within and to feel grounded. And it's wonderful to think that we're going to be more creative and more inspired and more
Mhm.
guided. I think that if we were to tap in with people out there, people are having more intuition, and maybe we're falling into a situation where we don't pay attention to that intuition. That could happen too. So you have always been connected to the higher realms. As we come more into the fifth dimensional energies within ourselves
Mhm.
and these
Yes.
skills come online, what can we expect to see when you go into other realms? What do you see personally? Is there colors? Is it an energy signature? Talk a little bit about this.
Right. Well, the easiest way to understand different levels of consciousness, for example, like fifth dimensional consciousness. Fifth dimensional consciousness versus third dimensional or fourth dimensional consciousness. The easiest way to understand this is it is just the quality of your view. So if we imagined all dimensions as floors of the building, and when you're on the ground floor, you see things directly, but the higher you go on the floors of the building, the wider and the bigger of a picture you tend to see. And then, of course, when you're on the top floor, you can see everything from the grandest perspective, and you see how everything interconnects. Versus when you're on the ground floor, you tend to be so close to things you don't see the big picture. So if anything, fifth dimensional consciousness, if we really get down to more of, a down to earth kind of understanding of it, is really a perspective. And it's a perspective that at our essence, we are one, but as individuals, we are different. That everything we individually do is contributing to the sum of the whole, and yet the energy principle does not work backwards. So just because everything we positively do does affect the whole, doesn't mean that anything we individually do takes away from the evolution of the whole. Simply because consciousness expands and it grows from one dimension to another, it always expands, but it never goes backwards. Just like you can put a seed in the ground and plant those seeds and have them grow into flowers and tulips and daisies. There is nothing anyone can do. You couldn't over-water the seeds and have that flower go back to being a seed. So in consciousness, everything is expanding, everything is growing, always being moved from one floor of perception to the next. So just when you have the biggest view and you think you understand the big cosmic picture, life will move you into the next big cosmic picture so you can see an even greater view. And everything we do as individuals is always contributing to the evolution of all. And yet, thankfully, nothing that we do in our lives is ever out of alignment with divine will and ever takes away from that. And so everything we see in the world right now, no matter whether we're looking at things on the news or our news is just the things we see right in front of us, everything is created on a quantum level simply to give us permission to practice responding more consciously to the things we see. So even though it's very common to look at some of the things that happen in the world and to question, how is this a part of the ascension, and to be very disheartened, it's really, really helpful to look at things and say, even though I'm looking at atrocities, even though I'm looking at violence, even though I know on some level it's the healing of repressed passion, what if the things that I see are just giving me a chance to practice meeting those experiences and responding with an even greater consciousness than the unconsciousness that I view? So instead of blaming ourselves and thinking I'm seeing unconsciousness in the world because there must be unconsciousness in me, instead we say, I only see unconsciousness to give me a chance to practice and respond with greater consciousness for the well-being of all. That would be a fifth dimensional perspective.
Okay, so that bears repeating, because when we're doing this, we are looking at it from another perspective. So again, that blame, we're not looking at something. And so, gosh, when we see things out in the world, I guess it's important to maintain our own vibration. But so repeat that. You only see unconsciousness.
You only see unconsciousness to inspire you to respond with greater consciousness. So, for example, if we were to give this an easier way of being understood or a more practical way, if you saw something unconscious in the world, you would simply ask yourself, what is the adjective that describes how I feel right now? And you would then just, in your own objective experience, come up with an adjective to describe how you feel. So perhaps, just for an example, let's say you saw some violence on television, and you asked yourself, how does that make me feel in my body? How do I feel when I see that? And maybe the adjective is unsafe. And so then you would take the adjective of unsafe, and you would then focus on the opposite adjective and turn it into a blessing for yourself. Because what we bless for ourselves, we give to all hearts. So let's say you saw something on the news, it made you feel unsafe, and you stopped what you're doing, you took a few deep breaths, and you say, may I be blessed with greater safety, because the I that you're blessing with greater safety is equally sending blessings out to every I within every heart. So what we bless for ourselves radiates outward into all hearts. And so the simple equation of unity consciousness is, when something bothers me, what adjective describes my experience? What's the opposite of that adjective? And may I bless that within my own heart, so that as I bless myself with the opposite vibration, I'm infusing that vibration into every heart in existence.
Okay. All right. That is a beautiful practice that if we can all embody that and do it consistently, that is the work to be done. And we can see that shift with daily practice. So let's go to a couple of questions, because here we are when we're looking out at the world and we know that we have to reach for the feeling of the opposite. We know we're empowered when we come from a place of being centered and connected. So how can we awaken eternal joy, which is the topic of tonight's conversation? This is something that is within us. Mm-hmm. How do we do that?
So let me give you a very interesting answer. Stay centered is to have no center at all. Because a lot of times when people say, I don't feel centered, that means I'm not in my comfort zone. I'm not hiding behind a security blanket or behind a shield, which is totally normal, because it's normal for the innocence within us to want to stay safe in its known realm of existence. But what we're shifting as we ascend into fifth dimension is we're not defining safety by staying in our known paradigm. We're knowing safety whether we're in a known or an unknown paradigm. So when a lot of people say I feel off center, that just means I'm outside of a comfort zone. And so when we have no center, what that actually means is that we learn and we grow in consciousness, so that when something feels good, or if something doesn't feel good, it doesn't have to be seen as the same experience, but it doesn't have to mean something less than the divine perfection of our entire journey. Meaning you may not like your experience, you may not like how it feels, but it doesn't mean something is wrong. It doesn't mean you're off course in any way. It doesn't mean you're less aligned with divinity. It just means you're not in your comfort zone right now, and the ego is having a very difficult time finding a way to embrace something that does not meet its list of demands and preferences. So again, when that would happen, we can say to ourselves, how do I feel right now? And if someone were to say, I feel off center, imbalanced, then we just stop. And we're not trying to force ourselves to feel the way we don't. We're not trying to fake anything. We're not trying to pretend something is the way it isn't. We're just using the power of our words. And we're just saying, if I feel off center, let me stop and declare, may I be blessed with greater harmony. Because when we bless ourselves with greater harmony, we are sending that energy out into the world. And from an even higher perspective, wouldn't it be amazing to discover that the only reason you were feeling out of balance was because in the moment that you were conscious enough to know that you were out of balance, to remember that harmony is the opposite of being out of balance, and to declare, may I be blessed with greater harmony. The only reason why any of us are experiencing something like out of balance is because when we declare the opposite and bless that within ourselves, we are doing it to send those blessings out to humanity. So the really interesting question is, were you really out of balance, or was humanity out of balance? You were only tapping into the quantum reality of humanity being out of balance. You then used it as a moment to bless yourself with greater harmony, just to answer and satisfy the blessings that needed to go out to the whole.
Always looking at the power of our words, Matt. Thank you for the beautiful reminder there. And so we declare the opposite and bless it for ourselves. This is the work that we do. There's some questions coming in. Jay from London says that your last YouTube video, Radical Acceptance, is great. How do we cope with the feelings of unfairness and anger, especially when we are surprised by its arrival?
In order for us to have the healthiest relationship with every aspect of ourself, nothing is ever an uninvited guest. There are many teachings and traditions that try to guide you past things to transcend things, but true transcendence is when nothing is an uninvited guest. And if anger shows up, we open our hearts and we welcome anger in, without the belief in superstitions that if I give my attention to anger, I'm going to manifest more of it. Instead, we open our hearts and we say, anger, come on in. And the real shift is when we shift from how isn't anger serving me, and we shift into how can I serve the experience of anger. And for all of us on the call, really feel the difference and the power when you shift this perception. So instead of thinking anger is not serving me, or it would serve me best to get rid of anger, what would happen if you actually approached anger, no matter whether you liked it or not, and said, anger, how may I serve you? What can I do to improve your experience of me? Because the simple, profound realization is that you cannot suffer, you cannot be harmed, and you cannot be intimidated by that which you have chosen to serve. And the majority of people in the world who have unconscious relationships with fear and anxiety and disappointment and dissatisfaction is because these are all the things that are continuously judged. And if we don't want these aspects of divinity to hurt us, then instead of pushing it away or trying to get beyond it, we change the perception and we go into alignment with service. And we say to whatever we're feeling, how may I help you? How can I give you a better experience of me? Because sometimes you'll take the exercise that I gave at the beginning of this call and you'll go, okay, I'm feeling fear. The opposite of fear is courage. May I be blessed with courage. And then you do that, which means you're sending the energy out into the world to help humanity evolve. And yet it still lingers. And then you go, oh, it still lingers because it must be there waiting to be served by me. And then we say, okay, anger, or okay, fear, how can I serve you? What can I do to give you a better experience of me? And 9 times out of 10, it's not going to have an answer to give you, because all it really wants is your undivided attention. It wants a voice and it wants a choice, because that's what all of these cellular memories never had from the past. They never had a voice. They never had a choice. So when you say, how can I serve you? You're giving it the very thing that teaches the parts of ourselves that don't think they matter and infuse it with the self-worth that helps us raise the vibration within all aspects of ourself. And as we return to wholeness, we then become a beacon of light that radiates that wholeness out for the well-being of all.
Yes, and so some would wonder, how could we be of service to our anger? Do you have an example of something that perhaps you've done or someone has done to shift it, to shift that anger by being in service and looking at it?
Well, again, the focus isn't on shifting it, because to shift it would mean that we are asking how I can serve it in order to shift it, and then we would be coming from, we wouldn't mean to be manipulative, but it would be kind of a manipulative standpoint to say, hey, anger, I'm going to ask how I can serve you so you can get the heck out of my reality. We have to really look at something like anger or sadness, and we have to really treat it with the respect that we would give our own children, or that we would give our own innocent heart. So we're not trying to do something to shift it. What we're actually doing is actually saying, instead of me needing to be liberated from you, maybe I'm your liberator. Maybe I'm here to serve you. And if we just say, how can I serve you? Not with the intention of, I'm going to say these magic words and make this vanish so I can get back to my comfort zone. Instead, I'm going to say, you know what? Maybe I'm only so angry and fearful because there are parts of myself that have never been given permission to speak, to feel this way. And the last thing we really want to do is to speak to the parts of ourselves that have survived horrific traumas and have survived the peril of victimhood. The last message we want to send to ourselves is, yeah, you survived something pretty unbelievable and it hurt you very deeply. It may have traumatized you, and I'm going to want to fast forward you in your healing and move you along. The greatest act of nobility, the greatest way we begin to forgive within ourselves, is to give ourselves the right to feel exactly the way we feel. We may not want to feel the way we feel, and it's okay to not want to feel that way. True acceptance is not trying to like your experience. True acceptance is accepting the fact that you might need to face some feelings, and they may linger longer than you want them to, and instead of using spirituality to try to find a shortcut, we're actually going to live in service to what's residing within us, instead of trying to get it to follow our lead of preference. So again, with no intention of trying to shift it, even though these things will shift on their own, we simply say to the most inconvenient emotions, instead of judging you, instead of perceiving you as a block and an obstacle, instead of using you as evidence for why life hasn't given me what I want, let me put that aside and let me say to you authentically, how may I serve you? How can I give you a better experience of me? How may I serve your evolution? How can I liberate you? And if you ask those questions to your heart from a sincere enough space, you're not necessarily going to get answers, although you might. You're just going to get like what feels like the flowering of a lotus within your heart, which is just the innocence that is no longer being judged, the innocence that no longer has to follow a list of spiritual rules and is given permission to step into the light of its own divinity on its own time. When we give ourselves that gift, everything happens for us instead of needing to occur because of us.
Yes, beautiful. That is fifth dimensional consciousness, that perspective that you spoke about. Beautiful.
Yes.
So these are acts of divinity, these emotions that come within us and connect us to God if we allow them to give us that perspective. So Matt, here we are. We've got many hearts all over the world. Can you tune in to our group energy and offer us a transmission of divine love? We would love to really step into the truth of who we are and really embody it.
Many people ask the eternal question, where is God? Everyone wants to know the location of God and how quickly they can get there. And then when I say God, I mean consciousness, divinity, source, whatever word fits for you, love, heaven. Some may say the divine is located in heaven. Some wonder if divinity is located here on this earth based on the things they see in the world. But let us talk about the true location of divinity. The true location of divinity is that the divine is located and can always be found in service. And the location of always being in service is one single question: how may I serve you? So may we bring our attention to our mind, whether it is silent or noisy. May we put aside our judgments and say to the mind, now that you have my attention, how may I serve you? And we just wait. We become the ones that serve it, not the one trying to control it. How may I serve you? How may I serve you? And notice what happens to your mind, where instead of fighting it, instead of judging it, instead of being the commentator that tracks all trends and patterns, what happens when we treat the mind like an innocent child and we say, now that you have my attention, how may I serve your journey? Please tell me what you need. I'm here for you now. And then we move into the heart, which is the center of the body. And we say to the heart, which is like speaking to all parts of the body at once, now that you have my attention, how may I serve you, my beloved? May I live to remind you that you are safe now that I am here. And I'm not going to condemn anything you feel. I'm not going to say anything is wrong. I'm just going to ask you, how can I give you the best experience of me? What can I do to liberate you? How can I serve your evolution? I am here for you instead of trying to get you to be the way I want you to be. How may I serve you? And then we pull into and we bring up to mind, for all of us on this call, take someone who either hurt you the worst in your life or who you imagine as your greatest enemy or adversary, or the person on the planet in history that you respect the least. And just imagine their face in front of you. And in the name of stepping into the light of unconditional love, without having to condone the behavior of any character, without having to like, but simply as an acknowledgement from one divine being to another, we say to this aspect, we say to this character, whoever it is for you, I may not be able to forgive you. I may not understand why. I may not even like you. But how may I serve you? How may I liberate you so that others may have an even better experience than I had of you? How may I liberate you? How may I serve you? How can I help you? And from this space, when even someone, a character from our past, a character in history, even someone that has treated us in a way that hurt us so deeply, when we are still able to acknowledge the fact that despite what has occurred, there is a divinity within that being. Of course, the reason they've acted the way they've acted is because they're not aware of that divinity, because if they were aware of that divinity, they would know you as divine, and that never would have occurred. So even when we have experiences with beings that seem nothing close to the light of divinity, we always in our consciousness can use that character and use that opportunity to become more divine than we've ever been before, by even meeting what may seem like the most despicable character in our history. And we meet them with the courage and the grace that says, I may not understand why you're the way you are. I may not forgive you for anything that has occurred, and yet the divinity in me meets the divine in you, and to that I say, how may I serve you? And when we approach each person, whether from our past or our present, all aspects of our emotional body, whether we like how we feel or we don't, or even the thoughts and fears and worries and projections in our mind, when we meet it all with, no matter how it feels or seems, I respect it as divinity in form, and the divinity within me meets the divinity of all with how may I serve you. Even if we're in physical pain right now, take this moment and ask the pain, how can I serve you instead of trying to get away from what I'm feeling? How may I serve you, excruciating pain? And when we allow anything, whether it's preferable or inconvenient, to always be honored and respected as divinity in form, and allowing the question, how may I serve you, to be where we fundamentally are rooted, from that space, everything within your reality from the inside out begins to transform at a far more miraculous rate. Because it's one thing to try to get life to be the way you want it to be. It's another thing to take the opportunities that life has given you and to live in service for the divinity of all, which as a result brings the divinity within you forward to heal and transform all aspects of your reality from the inside out. It cannot heal all aspects when that's what we're attempting to do. It only heals all aspects when we give to each moment the level of service and the level of grace that everyone deserves to discover. If there's anyone that has harmed you in this world, there is an opportunity to see how much love and acceptance they lack, which is why their unresolved pain seemed to become transferred into your pain. May we no longer think as serving and loving those who only deserve it, or I'm only going to love and serve those who earn it, who treat me the way I want to be treated. May we actually take a greater step that say those that don't act in accordance with their highest consciousness, they are the ones that need loving and serving the most. Because when a despicable character is loved and served, all of those despicable qualities begin to melt. And if all of us want to live on a planet where there is no violence, where passion doesn't have to be repressed and expressed onto each individual, but can be an expression of artistic passion and creativity that manifests gifts for all instead of against all, may we in each moment not just love who we prefer, not just focus on the experiences that seem convenient, but may we step into service for the well-being of all. May we ask, how may I serve you, to anything that arises. And if you give yourself a chance to really explore that, I think you'll be very surprised to find how quickly the light of divinity within you steps forward and comes out to play.
Beautiful, Matt. Thank you. Stepping into service for the well-being of all humanity. And so for whatever arises, ask, how may I serve? We hope that has helped some of the questions that came in, particularly about how to serve anger. I hope we all have a new perspective when we ask it that way. And also, Matt, you must have ESP and a knowingness, because we did have someone ask about the physical pain and how we can serve that physical pain. It's really being in that state and that expression, and the answers will come from within us, as that is divinity.
Yeah, and the answer to that question, by the way, is how do you serve anger? You serve anger by allowing yourself to be angry, because a lot of us, most of us on this call, people that are resonating with spirituality and are on this ascension path and are focused on growing and expanding and healing, beings that are interested in spiritual growth are already conscious beings in a certain degree that a lot of the world is still stepping into. The journey for most energetic sensitive beings is integration. So when an energetically sensitive being who's already conscious experiences anger, what happens is they notice the anger they're feeling, and instead of focusing on what triggered them and who they can blame, they just literally turn inward and they breathe in the anger and they breathe it out. Now, we're not breathing out to get rid of it. We're just breathing in and breathing out. We're literally it's like the breath is circulating through the energy of the anger. It's like the breath is oxygenating the anger. And as we're breathing in and breathing out, I always like to think of it as we breathe in the emotion in whatever way it shows up, and we breathe out blessings for all beings in existence. And as we're breathing in the feeling into the depths of our being, knowing that at the core of our being is nothing but eternal light. So when you breathe anger into the core of your being, you're just transmuting it back into the light of existence. And then that light of existence is breathed out as blessings for all. And as you breathe it into the core, transmute it, and breathe it out as blessings for all, we ask, anger, how may I serve you? What can I do to give you a better experience of me? And with these simple steps, you can really create a very intimate relationship with your emotions instead of perceiving it as something to get beyond or something to avoid.
Okay. Again, that whole new perspective. And so what would you say for Vicki, who did ask about the physical pain and serving it? Can you give an example of what she could do there?
Well, it would depend on, when she says, how may I serve you, it would depend on what the experience was. Like if she says, how may I serve you, we would have to wait and see what her authentic experience is. So what Vicki can do is breathe in the pain you feel into the center of your being, and then breathe out blessings for all. We don't have to visualize anything necessarily. We're just breathing the feeling into the core of our being and breathing out blessings for all. We're breathing in any feeling or pain to the core of our being and breathing out as blessings for all. And when we ask, how may I serve you? Again, we have to really ask, how may I serve you? And we have to actually listen and wait as if we're talking to a child. We have to really start relating to ourselves and these parts of ourselves as divinity. It may not act the way we want it to act, and yet we can serve it as divinity no matter what shape it takes.
Okay, we're going to go to a few more questions. We've got Shannon, who says, I've been questioning my lightworker beliefs big time. Like, what if there is no special date to await, and we should start creating the new earth right now, living and creating the world as we wish it to be instead of waiting? The question I have, she asks, is how can I pop out of lightworker beliefs in order to serve all more, whether they have heard of ascension and the things we know about and talk about? Perhaps there's a way to speak to people without getting all, quote, lightworker on them, which can create confusion and separation. She says, I'm going through some confusion with myself about my belief system.
And I really appreciate her saying that and the insights that are coming about from that question to make it as simple as possible. And not all light workers are in the position she's talking about, but I understand what she's talking about. Basically what she's talking about is when, the light worker becomes another role or identity for the ego. So let's just call it like waking up out of light worker ego. And usually light worker ego, in very simple terms, is known as the rescuer archetype, when a rescuer archetype is one who perceives the consciousness or actions or experience of others and assumes the role of I'm the one who's here to rescue you, whereas perhaps the shift that I would suggest is instead of asking what can I do to help this person, the question becomes how is their state of consciousness as they are right now? How is their state of consciousness an opportunity for me to grow and evolve into a higher vibration? Meaning, what can I do to allow where they're at to assist in my growth and evolution? Because the earth exists within a perception of polarity. The polarity is a balance of opposites. That means even though it seems like if I love another person, I should be filled up. The truth is when I love my heart, all people are embraced. So in the same way, when someone in your life shows up in a way that triggers that, light worker ego or rescuer archetype to say, I want to help them become better or to free them. The question is, how are they in their current state of consciousness helping you to become even more loving, more peaceful, and more free? And so again, we take the exercise that I gave at the beginning of the call and we apply it in a little different way. And when you're in the presence of someone who you may have a tendency to want to rescue, and you say, what do I feel in my body in this person's presence? Because 9 times out of 10, the feeling you have in your body is the experience they're having in their body. Let's say you tune into your body and you say, wow, I'm feeling a lot of scarcity. And you ask yourself, what's the opposite of scarcity? The opposite of scarcity is abundance. And then you just say to your heart, may I be blessed with abundance, knowing that the abundance blessings you just did go into your heart and go to all hearts, including the person right in front of you. Now, they may not shift automatically, but what we shift is instead of looking at the others in the world that we're going to change, we let the characters that we encounter to become like ongoing target practice to help us grow and change into the masters that we are. So a true master allows someone they meet to help them grow, and a light worker ego or a rescuer assumes that they're here to rescue all of those they encounter. So that's the fundamental shift that we need to make.
Okay, beautiful. It is the shift to service and loving it. Okay. Hello, you're unmuted. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I don't even know how to say this. Every time I start to do something new, and I'm starting something new now, I wake up on a regular basis with a pain in my stomach, like something is tightening a fist on my stomach. And I have tried to relax into it. I've tried everything. I listened to you quite a bit. I was wondering if you had any insight that I'm missing. I'm really afraid that it's attached to abundance, and I'm moving into a place where that's an issue.
Yeah, and I appreciate what you're saying. The intuitive message I keep getting is that the clenching in your stomach represents the fact that you still define yourself by the things that you do. So try this out loud in the name of healing this. Try this out loud. What if I did the things that I did?
What if I did the things that I do?
And what if no matter how much joy they brought me?
And what if no matter how much joy they brought me?
And no matter what outcome will come to be?
And no matter what outcome will come to be?
It has no power to define me at all.
Has no power to define me at all.
What if I don't do things because of how it will make me look to others?
What if I don't do things because of how it will make me look to others?
I'm just doing the things that serve the joy of my journey.
I'm just doing things that
serve the joy.
Serve the joy of my journey.
Because the clenching in my stomach.
Because the clenching in my stomach.
Is my inner child.
Is my inner child.
Worried that the things that I start.
Worried that the things that I start.
will define me in such a way
will define me in such a way
that I have less time to be with my innocence.
that I have less time to be with my innocence.
It's as if my innocence perceives these new things.
Because if my innocence perceives these new things,
like a sibling rivalry, like a brother or sister that gets all the attention.
Like a brother or sister that gets all the attention.
So what if I tell my innocence? The only thing that defines me. Is the love that I'm so blessed to be able to offer you. And I hereby vow to love you more often. And if you will allow me to love you more often. You don't have to worry about this new joy. Or this new project. Taking attention away from you. I need you, inner child, to help me. Fully embrace this new project. And I acknowledge that the first step in embracing this project is reminding you how committed I am to loving you. So that you don't have to worry about this taking away attention from you. And with that, I am reconciled, I am whole, and I am free. Now, how does that feel when you say all that? Well, actually, the pain got worse, and it seems like it's moving out to my arms, so. And now we ask the arms, how may I serve you? And let's see what it says. How may I serve you? What can I do to give you a better experience of me? How may I serve you? And what do you feel?
I feel afraid.
What's that?
I feel afraid.
Okay. And ask afraid. Or try these words out loud. It's okay to be afraid, honey.
It's okay to be afraid, honey.
You can be as afraid as you want.
You can be as afraid as you want.
And I want to hear all the details about what you're afraid of.
And I want to hear all the details about what you're afraid of.
Because I'm here with you now. I'm here to serve you. You're safe with me. Whether you believe that or not. I love you. And what does it feel like having just said those words?
Well, that made me cry.
And that's the release of energy. But again, the focus isn't. Again, the big thing that the spiritual communities have to wake up out of, it's very important. We have to wake up out of, if I do A, it will make B go away. We have to really get out of that spiritual manipulation mindset that says, I'm only going to do whatever needs to be done to make this crap go away. I mean, that's really something we have to really recognize as being very unhelpful. Because all these aspects of divinity are divine in nature. So the divine in you knows when you're doing it just to shift versus when you're approaching yourself authentically. So part of my role is not only to teach you how to communicate with yourself, but how to communicate with yourself in such a level of authenticity that your inner child actually believes what you're saying. Do you feel the difference?
Yeah, I get that.
So I would recommend. You're welcome. I would recommend. And by the way, what's the project you're doing? Just quickly.
I'm opening a hypnotherapy practice.
Very good. Now, let's anchor some energy to help allow would you agree that if I can help you anchor some energy to bring the highest possibility to your new physical therapy practice, that would be helpful?
Oh, I think that would be very helpful. I would be very grateful.
And wouldn't it be funny if the words I had you say to anchor the highest energy that will liberate you were the most unsuspecting words? Try this out loud. As a way of anchoring the highest possibility for my physical therapy practice.
It's hypnotherapy.
Hypnotherapy, I'm sorry.
That's okay. As a way of anchoring the highest energy for my hypnotherapy practice.
I affirm that my hypnotherapy practice, no matter how thriving it becomes, will not satisfy me in any way. See, and the laughter is your soul shining through, going, aha, I get that. So when you affirm that it won't satisfy you in any way, that gives life the freedom to make it a success. When you need it to satisfy you, that weighs it down and causes no one to show up. Isn't that funny?
Well, I notice I'm laughing.
There you go. See, that's how the subconscious mind understands things different than the conscious mind. So when I say these things, the laughter is coming from the subconscious mind, which means what I just had you said out loud was absorbed by the subconscious mind and acknowledged, and now there's been a shift in your beliefs, and now you can actually manifest something, not because it's going to define you. Like people say, oh, what do you do? Well, I have this hypnotherapy practice. Oh, does it like really, satisfy you? Oh, no, not at all. Absolutely not. Because what's going to satisfy you is the fact that whether it's successful or anything in between, you're going to be the one that loves yourself throughout all of this. It's not the thing you do that makes you who you are. It's how regularly, how often, and how deeply you love yourself through whatever happens.
Okay.
So how does that feel when I say that to you?
Well, now my stomach doesn't hurt.
Bingo! There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's going to be awful. I'm saying it's going to be fantastic, but it's not going to satisfy you. Like even if you were hoisted onto the shoulders of humanity and revered as the world's greatest hypnotherapist, and your hands were engraved in the Man's Chinese Theater, and every day you spend time just going to various award ceremony and just giving award speeches and receiving awards because you're so fantastic. Not even that could satisfy you or change the way you view yourself. And that's why people who succeed sometimes have these nervous breakdowns or these midlife crises, because they thought the thing that they were going towards was going to make them feel different, and that's just not the case. And when you say, this will never satisfy me, energetically you open up the space for it to be successful. Your personal success is based on you loving you in a very deep, intimate, and authentic way.
Beautiful.
Yes. So, congratulations on your hypnotherapy practice. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. And congratulations on loving yourself even deeper than ever before.
Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Wow, that was powerful. Yes, we can see now how that fifth dimensional wisdom from you, Matt, really helps dispel the fear that could come from that. Or as you said, in this case, it's that identification with that who we think we are. Okay, right. Beautiful. Thank you, Matt Kahn, because, wow, this lesson of love is why we are here. So, with this, I would like to take another web caller. This is Maria Serena in Vienna. Hello, Maria.
Hello, hi.
Hello.
Hi. oh, that's interesting. I was on the Angel Academy with you.
Oh, so sweet.
Of course, always hoping to get through.
There you are.
And now
you'll be
here
feeling
I am.
really cute.
So now that we are finally here together, how can I serve you?
Oh, thank you for that question. Maybe just to join into me and support me with what I can do for myself best at the moment.
That's beautiful. Try asking yourself this question. And your first name is Maria, correct?
Yes.
So ask yourself, dearest Maria.
Shall I repeat that?
Ask yourself out loud, dearest Maria.
Dearest Maria.
How may I serve you?
How may I serve you?
I get an immediate answer. Let's see what you get. So what answer do you get when you ask that question? I get an immediate question. Answer. So you get
Love
an answer
myself.
from me?
To love myself.
That's very good. What I also get is that your innocence wants you to take the time to pay more attention to it, because it doesn't feel like it matters. Like it doesn't feel like you are who it wants to connect with. So try this out loud. Dearest Maria.
Dearest Maria.
I love you so much.
I love you so much.
And I am so sorry.
And I'm so sorry.
If you ever felt as if you were less important to me.
If you have ever felt that you were less important for me.
I'm so sorry if you've ever felt that way.
I'm so sorry if you ever felt that way.
Please forgive me.
Please forgive me.
I would like today to be a brand new opportunity.
I would like today to be a brand new opportunity.
Where we clear the slate.
Where we clear the slate.
And where we start all over again together.
And where we start all over again together.
Because I need your help.
Because I need your help.
I need you to teach me how to love you better.
I need you to teach me how to love you better.
And I'm here to make you feel safe.
And I'm here to make you feel safe.
So if we can work together.
So if we can work together.
You can find the safety that you so rightfully deserve.
You can find the safety that you so rightfully deserve.
I can find the happiness
I can find the happiness
that I so deeply desire.
that I so deeply desire.
And if you can share your safety with me.
And if you can share your safety with me.
And I can share my happiness with you.
And I can share my happiness with you.
We can merge together as one.
We can merge together as one.
Enter the light of divinity.
Into the light of divinity.
Together as one.
together as one.
And so I am healed.
And so I'm healed.
As never before.
As never before.
That I am now.
That I am now.
And so it is.
So it is.
I am the light I am.
I am the light I am.
And Maria, when you just said those words, I obviously hear the emotion, but having just said those words, how are you left feeling right now?
Somehow, like a cleansing, is what I can say.
A glancing?
More, yeah, like more clean.
Good. And do you want to know what the biggest turning point in that whole process was for you? When I had you ask your inner child, can you teach me how to love you? And you gave it purpose. You said, instead of you trying to be the one that loves it, you said, honey, I need you to teach me how to love you better. And you asking it to work with you allowed you and the child and the parent aspect to come together and merge. That was the turning point. Where instead of you trying to be the one that always knows what to do, you reach out to you're trying to serve and say, honey, can you teach me how to love you better? Can you help me?
Yes.
You see the difference between instead of trying to always be the capable one, the one that always has the right answer, instead of trying to be the one that always knows what to do, instead you reach out to the one you're loving and saying, can you help me love you? Can you teach me how to love you better? And that puts you and your child on the equal playing field, and that's what created that healing that you felt.
Yes, that's what I had known that. I don't know for how long that this is the point for me, but I did never know how to do that, how to love myself, or how
Right.
to accept myself, or I just try.
Well, you can know loving yourself is important. You can know accepting yourself is important. But it's an entire life's journey to learn how to love and accept yourself. It's not I just say I accept this and that happens. It's really loving yourself and accepting yourself and healing the wounds of an inner child is really a more intricate process and journey that deserves all of our respect. And when we start to approach ourselves, and again, when I have you repeat words out loud, it's so that you can come from that place of humility and respect that allows your inner child to really recognize the truth of your intention. But when we can really respect the journey of love and acceptance and not try to speed through it, but really respect and honor it like this, something very magical shifts. And I'm so thankful and grateful that I've been here with you today to help participate not only in this shift for you, but to imagine how many other callers on this call have been healed and opened up and transformed as a result of what we've been guided to do together.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's an honor to connect with you.
Thank you. To connect with you.
Thank you.
Yes. Oh, Maria, thank you. That was incredible to witness. And I know that we all experienced a shift there as well. To hear Maria's tears on those pivotal moments was transforming. And there are many that were shedding tears with you, Maria. So thank you for sharing and being there in this space. Okay, well, Matt, we are up on our time this evening, so I do want to thank you for being here. This is always a wonderful session with you. Information from you is the way shower of the fifth dimension. So we thank you for sharing this perspective and really helping us to unravel from the current matrix that many of us seem to be in. We have a special offer for those who would like to work with your teachings more in depth and this is Awakening Eternal Joy. Please share with us a little bit about the 7 hours of this program.
Yes, in this 7-hour program, which are recordings, audio recordings from some of our weekend immersions or some of our soul gatherings, when I offer the transmission of energy that I do through my words like on this program or even more deeply at our live events, the amount of healing energy that enters the field and transforms all in attendance is so indescribable and miraculous. And when we record these events, to know that the healing vibrations is encoded into the recording allows me to make a package like this, where I take the vibrations of different events, and I'm guided by the universe intuitively to create a healing process just by putting these together in certain combinations that allows all who participate in listening to what was recorded, not just the words, of course, because I teach in a very humorous and practical way, but the energies that come through the words to allow you to meet you wherever you're at and to expand and uplift your journey and to help you heal at a more accelerated rate. And so with this program, which is called Awakening Eternal Joy, Discovering the 6 Cornerstones of Heart-Centered Consciousness, it really is an opportunity to really acknowledge, okay, the 5th dimension is here. Now it's time for me to fully integrate and to activate my highest potential and to manifest and bring forth my most fulfilling reality. And through this program that I've offered, that is over 7 hours in length, it provides all the transmissions of healing energy, all of the necessary teachings that allows you to fully step forward and start living a life of 5th dimensional consciousness. And I'm just very excited for everyone to receive this and to really experience the healing and the power that these audio transmissions bring forth for the well-being of all.
And we thank you so much for sharing them and for all of the teachings that you offer, and for you to stand in this mission and know your purpose with this full service to humanity. The words that you shared this evening were wonderful, and the divine can always be found in service. A beautiful perspective that you aided us in seeing this evening. So Matt, as we say goodbye, any last words as we look forward to the coming year?
Well, with the coming year, it is an opportunity for all of us to go from, or to transform from being a process to manifesting and bringing forth our highest perfection for the well-being of all. And of course, that highest perfection is the intention of service, that every day, no matter how loving we are towards ourselves and others, we say and declare to the universe, may today I be even more loving towards myself and others for the well-being of all. And it's that constant eternal cultivation of every day I'm more loving to myself, every day I'm more authentic with myself, every day I'm more open and considerate to myself. I'm open to being more forgiving with others. Every day we intend to becoming more of the love that we already are. And when on a daily basis we are intending and actively declaring to be more of the love of our true self, that is what it means to love what arises. And for those who are desiring to form the books that I've written, whatever arises.
Thank you, too, for listening and sharing in this space today. We leave you now with music from the universe, literally sacred geometry of music, as musical notes were assigned to mathematical equations. The result is this beautiful music, available at acoustichealth.com. you.